All right, guys, welcome back. We are here for another episode of the Business of Pleasure podcast brought to you by Bedroom Kandi Boutique Parties. I am your host, your sexologist bestie, Kash, and we are going to get to some spicy stuff today. So just remember, this is the place that you guys want to check in for all things where you kind of want to get a little bit of the sexy and a bit of the success, because we're going to talk about all those things. We're here sitting down with people in the business of pleasure, but we also will tap into things like wellness and cosmetics and anything that you can think of in life that makes you feel good. We're all about all the things. So sitting down today, I am so excited. I'm not gonna lie, guys. One of my favorite people is on the couch. Okay. And she didn't come along. She brought extra fun. And it's just a pleasure to be able to have these conversations openly. So I want to first take a moment to say welcome to Bedroom Kandi's Executive Director of Business Development, Rita, the godmother at Bedroom Kandi. You got to put some respect on that title. Hey, Rita.
Oh my God. I'm so excited to be on the podcast today. You know, the godmother. I've been in this industry for
a long time. How many years has it been?
2007. So what is that?
Almost 2 decades.
Yeah.
Nearly 2 decades in the business of pleasure. How did the godmother name come to you? I'm always curious. Is it like orgasm?
Kind of like that. you know, the auntie, the friend, the person that you can talk to, that you can ask any of the questions, no judgment, just lifelong. This has tended to be me. And because my spirituality is kind of magical.
I like that.
Someone very near and dear to me just said it one time. She was like, I just feel like, I don't know, the kind of like the Godfather, something like the godmother, like the godmother.
It is
that very important.
I love that. I love that it blends both ends of it. It's so funny because they'll hear from another one of our community experts and has a very similar story attached to it, like the mystical. And is us mystical chicks just kinky? I'm just wondering now.
I think we know.
My name is Enchantress in the kink world, and it's no surprise that it's a sorceress, right? So I'm starting to realize we got some common denominators there. Okay, so guys, the reason why I'm most excited, this conversation is going to talk a lot about one of those unconventional areas. And in order to do so, I didn't want Rita to come alone, okay? Because I think it's so important that we have a reflection of seeing what it looks like in a healthy couple dynamic, and in this case, marriage, okay? So I would love to take a moment to also introduce Eric, who's here with us today, and he's going to be sharing some love. Eric, can you tell us a little bit about you, what you're excited about? I mean, I know who you're excited about. Y'all should have saw the googly eyes. Those. They were literally just sitting there.
Gaga-eyed.
Just gaga-eyed. Yes. Kind
of a little lost in space.
Yes. Welcome, Eric.
Thank you so much for having me and having us. This is just an amazing experience and amazing opportunity. So thank you. We love being able to talk about our dynamic.
Yes.
And, help to serve as that point of inspiration and, also, education as well. People have a lot of questions and, we're always happy to, help enlighten others in terms of our journey and both as individuals and then together as a couple. So that's always something that makes our hearts really warm.
And you know what I love most? It's like I think in any good healthy relationship that there are times where you take turns being a support for each other. And I've had the pleasure of seeing you in that capacity so many times. And it's really warming when you get to see just someone really, really well cared for and loved. And that is, I already know it's reciprocated because you're a topic of discussion for us, like in a positive way all the time. But it was so nice meeting you for the first time.
Likewise,
and then I think we were at the Sex Expo too. Yep. And it was just like, hands down, I was just like, this is perfect for her. Like, you don't even know. So, okay.
I do feel like we figured it out. And I feel like it's it would be rude for us not to
tell others how to do it.
We do have a duty for sure.
Yes, especially in this type of lifestyle dynamic. So I would love if you guys, and whichever one of you I would assume might want to lead this conversation, right? To just enlighten our viewers of how you identify or define your dynamic as not just, marital spouses, but outside of that.
Yeah, absolutely. So for us, the most simplistic way to describe our dynamic outside the construct of total power exchange is really in a daddy doll dynamic. So kind of as that protector, provider, kind of the foundational rock of kind of where our relationship goes. And within that also, behind every great man is a great woman. And it couldn't be, the wildly blissfully happy man that I am without, my partner, my wife, years together now. And it's wild to be able to say that each year eclipses the year prior in terms of our happiness. And it's just the opportunity and the honor to, have that gift of someone, presenting their wellness, all of their incredible gifts, and how you nurture and cultivate that is, for me as a coach in a both business and, athletic capacity, between, marketing, communications, and then, skiing and mountain biking. It's incredible to see how all of those kind of individual threads weave together.
Kind of come together, yeah.
And it kind of creates that, not that one strand of excellence, but kind of woven as that whole cloth that kind of wraps around our relationship. So it's just this ever-present dynamic that it might not necessarily be front and center. So, in vanilla terms, it's not something that most people would perceive, other than kind of, those imperceptible, gestural things that we understand, but for others kind of,
it's
not
so
aware.
fun.
Yeah. So we have that give and take, and being able to build off of that is really what, continues that perpetual cycle of, adoration and reciprocity, and kind of, again, nurturing and cultivating each other, and through all the experiences, what we want to have together, and, really kind of guiding us towards what we think as the vision for our own happiness as individuals and couples, and where we want to go in life.
What's so interesting about what you said a moment ago? You talked about your skills and coaching in more than one way. And I always thought that the best kind of partner in a relationship is the person who gives all of their transferable skills to that one space. Like, absolutely, you accumulate all of these things about you, and then now you have this place where it's like, I'm giving it the best of all of these things. So that was a really, really, that stood out when, and what you just said, because the minute you hit it, I'm like, yeah, because let's keep it real. Sometimes you're the coach, sometimes you're the teacher, sometimes you're the doctor, sometimes you're the executive. Sometimes you really do toggle all the hats in a healthy relationship. So I love that. And I kind of really quick, Rita, want to turn to you, because being in a TPE, and for those who don't know, total power exchange, meaning someone in the dynamic is going to be in control. Like, and this is something that is negotiated and agreed upon. So it's not like someone walking in and saying, I'm in charge of things. No. But it also requires a person as in a submission space who's really aware. So I kind of want to get a quick understanding of what was the thing that made you first say, I think that might be something for me. Like, what made you choose to want to exist in a submissive space?
I think you can relate to this a lot. Women or people who have a lot of responsibility in their life. In my role at Bedroom Kandi, it's almost a decade of making big decisions every day that impact other people, and the real weight and appreciation of that. I do love to be in charge, don't get me wrong, but for most of my life, I thought, just like I like to surround myself in environments with people who inspire me, who have incredible skills. Like, I always want to be around people who are going to make me an even better version of myself. I really longed for a partner who could be that somebody that I could fully trust, to engage in a way that I could, and we could have a whole long talk about trauma history and the things around this. But I just felt like I've never been able to fully trust anyone else. It's always felt like I've had to carry everything on my own.
Or check it, double check it, come behind it.
And while I explored a little bit in a play way, what I really quickly realized is it's not just the fun pleasure moments, that this is something that I wanted to be a part of my bigger relationship dynamic, something that was present all the time. And to find somebody that I could trust their leadership, because the TPE thing, the total power exchange, for us at least, is yes, it's for his desires, but also what I am trusting is that all of his decisions, all of his judgment and guidance and leadership is to fulfill things that I've said are important to me. And
it's a consideration. Oh my God. Why? For 2 seconds, we have to bring that to the top. People don't realize that there's a heavy amount of consideration that I'm trusting my partner, right? Because sisters in submission here, right? It's understanding that you have someone that you can trust so much because you know that they don't make a decision without having thought of you and how it would impact you or how it would improve or help you or alleviate you. So when you have someone show up and say, I'm not just calling the shots and, I'm realizing that the shots they're calling are actually making life a lot easier for me or simpler, like you know what I mean, there are enough things complicated, right? Why does this have to be another one? So I love that you felt like not only there was a trust of that, but it's like he's doing the things that I want, and that brings me to the control, because I think that's the biggest misconception. Like, who's really in charge when you start thinking about it?
Right. I'll say submission is the greatest gift, and that is the power position. I am not given complete autonomous control. Again, everything is done with consent. Consent is at the forefront of everything. Again, we create the vision of, we think we've talked about before, expectations. Like, what are you looking for? What are you hoping to experience and achieve? And likewise, and that 99% of the time, it's wildly, aligned. And again, that entrusting of, you've given me this incredible gift, and it's my responsibility to be, the fiduciary and, an emotional and a physical, all those capacities. And again, there's no movement without kind of, as the saying, move as one. And that's kind of always our operating mantra.
I love that. I love that. And I have one more question before I shift to a little bit about how this all impacts your role, right, at Bedroom Kandi. You shared move as one. And I guess one of the things that I think is also an area of misconception is most people see it as the dominant one is the one who's getting all the benefit. Like it looks like this person's in charge. They're getting everything that they want. You're doing whatever they say or whatever. So there's this conception that the submissive person, it almost looks abusive to some people because they don't understand that consent piece, that autonomy piece, and that this isn't something that you're just taking. This is something that is given. So I always say that the submissive is the true power one, because you have the ability, not just in in scene like behavior, like when you're actually in the middle of it, but at any given point, if I say this stops, I have the ability to abort mission, and a respecting dominant is going to stop, but also the checking in. Right? How do you make sure she's okay? So I guess the question I want to ask to both of you, and you guys can take turns answering, is what has this type of dynamic in a relationship help you notice about the other that you probably might have missed, or, if you weren't intentionally looking for? What do you think are some of the things you learned about Eric in this capacity, and vice versa?
Ladies first.
I honestly don't think that I have learned new things about him. I've just seen the things that I thought up front. For anybody who's new to this, first of all, vetting people is really important. Getting to know when they, all the stuff they used to tell us when we were kids about, like, don't just jump in the bed.
Jump in the back of the car. Yes.
It's even more important here. And so I saw all of these amazing qualities in him that I was looking for. And a little bit, I was like, is this going to be true? Because he kind of is checking every single specific thing on my list. And what this has shown me is it is real. It gets tested every day. And his consistency might be the most surprising. I've never experienced such consistency in showing up the way that we've agreed to. And what that means to me is just everything.
I think the consistency and commitment collaboration, because you have to have a level of being committed to it. And you really get to see when a person says, I'm for you, that consistency is is like the testimony of, or, you know. And what about you, Eric? What do you feel?
So for me, I mean, there's, again, a lot of that reciprocity, and I'll just use like a for instance. So, you know, if we're doing a photo shoot together, you know, it's everything. It starts at everything from the beginning of, here's kind of the creative vision, right? You know, everything from shoot location to wardrobing, seasonality, like all of those types of things. So, you know, really getting into the elements of, you know, from a I guess kind of pre-care perspective, not in just looking at it in the aftercare, and managing, you know, the emotionality, like the anxiety, all the things that kind of lead up to it, where you'll get jitters and things like that. But, you know, having that input of, here are my fears or concerns, meaning coming from Rita, and being able to address them. And again, opening up those communication pathways that really help me as a dominant, or in our case, you know, me, a master of our dynamic, and her in the submissive position or role. But, you know, being able to really draw her out and expressing the rawest and most intimate parts of her inner soul and mind and emotions. So again, like I was saying, like that great gift of submission is, you know, being able to honor and protect that, and giving her the, not just the saying, but demonstrating that guardianship, if you will, of protecting all of those things that are very, very raw and potentially scary, you know?
Yeah.
You know, so, you know, for me, it's, I get the gift of, you know, there is kind of that coaching capacity, which it's funny how many times over my life I've come back to that capacity over and over again. And, you know, it kind of ties in with somewhat of legacy, right? You know, leave things better than you found them.
That right there is 100%. And I feel like when I don't know about you guys, I'm sure you'll agree, I never get tired, right, of that feeling that I get every time I feel like I did just what you said. It's
absolutely.
Like you almost chase it. And I've even found through my own journey in it is that I don't think I've ever been my truest, most empowered self until I owned my submission. And I'll say this, right? Some of the things that you shared about being in a position where you're the one calling the shots, I find that a lot of people don't realize this doesn't just extend to work situations. This means you could be the person in the family that everyone turns to, or the, you know, the oldest sibling, or the matriarch, or patriarch. Because don't get us wrong, men love submission too, right? I identify as a switch with a preference for being on the submissive side, because I didn't feel like I had a choice in the times that I had to be in a dominant role. I felt like it was a responsibility that I was handed.
Same.
Yes. And I was like, oh, okay, these are the punches we're supposed to roll with. And then I'm like, I traded my punches in for spanks. You gotta get smart, y'all. That's what I did. But to be honest, once I realized that there was power, once you had the right people, right? Whether it's like the right teammates at your job or coworkers, or, you know, and whatever it is, when you know that those people are people you can trust with certain things, it's the release of saying, I'm going to put it there and I'm going to trust it. Right. And I would emphasize, I always gave this example, and I'm curious because I want to see how you're going to answer right before we shift into our adult edutainment. I was asked men this question. I say, if you were, say, out at work and Rita was already home, and, you know, you had to go in on the way, she said, hey, honey, on the way in, could you grab some milk? Right. And on your way home, you were driving, maybe you had some music going. So you were like passing 20 stores, right? You got to the house, you walked in, realized, I forgot the milk, right? What are your next steps in that moment?
Quite honestly, I mean, it's usually either, you know, fortunately we're, you know, close to a number of stores, so it's a matter of going back, or, you know, to the point of communication, do we need it right this second, or could we even just do it as a DoorDash, or is it something that I can get it in the morning, like if it's for coffee, you know? So it's like, it's kind of more dictated by the constraints of the need rather than just the actual ask. And again, you know, to the point of, you know, that reciprocity or that ebb and flow, you know, we're all human. We're going to make mistakes. And again, as you know, in a dominant or master position, you also have to have your own accountability when you've, again, in the mundane things, like in that scenario.
Up.
I'm sorry, I forgot.
I was jamming out, right?
I was lost in a track, and I was thinking of you, and you know, just being honest about it.
Oh, that was good.
You know, it's like, hey, you know, it's like
I was
you
lost in the process. I was thinking of you. Did you hear that, guys? Oh, it's so hard to be mad at a man when he was like, "Babe, I'm sorry. I couldn't wait to get to you."
I was lost in you.
Do you see how that proactive communication and just acknowledging it makes me be like, "What milk? Get over here."
Yep.
It's so fun because I was gonna say if he came home and he forgot the milk and he realized that, how would you respond? But now
because I like that. In your example, it's a silly and a small thing, and those silly and small things never get overlooked or ignored. But what I do know is, if it was important, he's not going to not do it. He's not going to look for excuses.
The consideration,
yeah, always.
And that's really when I ask that question, what I'm looking for, to see what things will a person consider. I've asked people that question, and I've had people say, I mean, I'll get it another time, or you know, they take that turn. But you said, I'm going to see if it's urgent. I'm going to see, maybe she needed to cook something that night.
Might be for my coffee.
Or it could be for the coffee in the morning, urgent. Right? And for me, it's for the cereal that my kid gets to eat.
Yeah, exactly.
That doesn't require me to wake up early because he can eat a bowl of cereal. Yeah. But I always said to someone, that milk could be so different because if I had to wake up and cook breakfast, then my day might start differently. But if my kid could go in there and make a bowl, it buys me a little bit of extra sleep time. So it might seem really small and insignificant, but it can be big. And I love the fact that the consideration was not to, a lot of people dismiss those things like, oh, it's just a gallon of milk. It's not that big of a deal. Yeah. And so I asked the question to a lot of folks in this space because it gets to others to see that the principles of that consideration and always thinking of what the other person's needs are show up in other ways outside of like just the kinky stuff. And so if you're curious about it, just dip your toe and see how you feel. You never know. You might actually end up in a more healthy relationship.
You know, when you say healthy too, I am so grateful for this because listen, he and I entered this relationship both knowing that we were interested in this, that this kind of lifestyle isn't for everyone. Sexual pleasure isn't a high priority for some people. It is like water and air for other people. You know,
water signs. That's why.
Well, that's it. My Scorpio over there.
Pisces. See, you might be onto something there. Okay.
That's a whole other podcast.
And I'm a mermaid because I'm like, I could come above ground for air, but I like, yeah, okay.
But what I love about the BDSM, there is an expectation that you are going to communicate, that boundaries are going to be discussed, that it is a priority to acknowledge and respect people's boundaries. I just think that the communication and expectations around that are different than in the vanilla space.
In a vanilla space.
And it's something I really prized. I think a lot of people, there's so many new people to the community over these last handful of years, or even back in
and it's getting a lot more of a public sort of.
Yeah. But I also encounter people and professionals like therapists sometimes, which really bothers me, where there's this preconceived notion about how this looks, that a lot of people think sadism and masochism, that there's got to be pain involved. And for some people, you might like that level of stimulation. That is not what I was seeking. Honestly, I'm such a sapiosexual.
Yes.
The mind stuff, the
control from there is the best stuff in the world. I'm sorry. Yeah, just you take over, Rita. I'm gonna go back and daydream at this point.
Kasha's checked off. She'll be back. But no, is that it looks so different for everyone, and it gets to be, it's what is it that you really enjoy, and you get to have more of these things. Like submissive is the right category to put me in, but if you wanted to put more of a label to it, it's doll. You see, I like the hair, I like the makeup, I like the shoes, I like the clothes. And even in just talking about getting ready for this podcast, we were talking about, well, how far back does this go for me? And there's so many signs, like who I was has always been baked into me. And I think back to like my high school dance team days, even nothing sexual or anything around that. But I just reflected on how much I really loved the makeup and the hair and the costumes and the performance.
And the kind of yes.
And all of that I really loved. And finding somebody who really values getting to see all of that and experience all of that as well is just so incredibly fulfilling. And, you know, like even icons growing up who I didn't know why.
You didn't realize you were drawn to them?
But hello, Dolly Parton, the doll of all time.
Yes.
Playboy shoots from when she was young until her mature days. And that woman has like a rock solid marriage. They've been together over 50 years. And when I see that now, I'm like, oh, I think I got the math on that now. And he's the silent behind the scenes supporting all of her big screen endeavors. And that's like her rock. And that's how she talks about him. And something I didn't realize how much I needed it until I found it.
Until you have it. That is okay. That is the perfect note to move in, because it's what I'm hearing, and what I love the most is you at any given point in your life are constantly learning who you are. And sometimes we go about life not understanding why we feel connected to certain things, not understanding why. And then someday they start to make sense, and you realize, and something you said, Rita, like you said, in a lot of vanilla situations, the communication is not as much. And that's usually actually, there's a statistic, I forget the exact percentage, but a lot of folks are saying most people who divorce, they think infidelity is the number one cause. They think money is the number one cause, but it's usually a lack of having established expectations. And that's a communication point. And what I love about the BDSM lifestyle is that it puts that up front. It's not a reactive conversation, because now we've had something happen and we got to talk about it. We talked about it beforehand so that nothing happens. And that's what negotiation really covers for those who are not as familiar. So you want to take some time to learn, like, what does a healthy negotiation look like? There's plenty of things. And at BK, one of the things that I love most is we have all these great resources, and one of which our Kink guide talks a lot about those and has like a example of where do you start. So if you're curious, start with education.
Yes.
I don't think there's a point in BDSM where you stop education. You really can't. But start with education so that you feel informed, because that information is going to make you feel more confident about what you're venturing into. And what I love most, and this kind of takes us into the adult edutainment side, is we have plenty of things to help you get started over here. Okay.
Yep.
I want to talk about some of our products, but I want to first ask this question, Rita, which will take us into it. Now you got all of this life experience on this side, and now you're in a role, right, with Bedroom Kandi, where you're very instrumental in making decisions about what products are we bringing in, what types of things do we need to look for, and specifically quality. And we talked about this on some of our prior episodes on how much that's at the forefront of every decision. Well, specifically in Kink, there's got to be a certain level of quality in order for us to not even use it, but also respect it.
Yes.
First of all, I have seen some stuff that I'm like,
oh, I judge.
So knowing that is the case, I did want to grab one of our products I have in hand. But if you could talk a little bit about just like in our Dark Desires collection, and guys, just so you know, like this entire collection is really, really something that's gender inclusive, because this could be on the face of a male just as much as a woman or anyone who doesn't identify non-binary or anything like that, that it doesn't scream one or the other. And I just like that. To me, when I first saw Dark Desires on, it felt like straight out of a Hugh Hefner robe. But I kind of liked his robe game.
Smoking
He always
jacket
had
kind of
like those,
situation.
it had that vibe to it. So I've grabbed a couple of things in my hands, and one of which is our Dark Desires eye mask, which I think is like one of the most beginner friendly items in the collection. Plus I use it on the plane. It's a great sleep mask, but there's a specific feature that I wanted to talk about, which is yes. So Rita, can you talk to us a little bit about when you're looking at the manufacturers, when you're looking at the features of the things that we add in, how much of a role does that play in the selection? And can you just talk about some of the things in our Dark Desires collection that makes it stand out quality wise?
So one of the things we acknowledge is that probably the majority of people coming to Bedroom Kandi are first timers, either in selecting toys or they're venturing into BDSM and fun sensory play for the first time. And so we wanted to make sure that everything that we make first of all, Kandi and her high standards.
Yes.
Love her. Love her for that.
Because she is not gonna let it go if it ain't got a certain.
No. So we wanted our products to be approachable for people who are new and maybe, again, have some preconceived notions about what it might be or what it isn't.
Right.
But we wanted to make sure that it was made well enough that anyone who's experienced that sees our products will also really respect what we've made here. So we put these things to the test to make sure that we got good stuff that is going to hold up. We pay attention to these fine details, like you saw both Kasha and I rubbing the inside. There's a velvety liner inside because while, okay, some people's kink might be to leave marks on them, most of us need to go to the office the next day and we need to not have marks on
not
our
look
wrists.
like a domestic violence case because you came in with like...
Yeah. And so everything, like I said, everything we made is beginner friendly, but expert approved, if you will. And we put it through the test to make sure even like our captive desire collar and nipple clamps, we wanted to make sure that, you know,
it's adjustable,
safe, and it's adjustable. Just all of those little details.
Oh, we have one of those. I'm gonna go while you're talking, Rita.
Yes. And this one we got to see because I actually have a very funny, there's a lot of testing, you know, it's not just somebody making something and sending it to us. A lot of this is things we've designed ourselves.
I think we should note that product testing is probably my favorite part of any role I've ever had here. I told you once, Rita, that one of my favorite things was like, I think I made it in life because I get to like have orgasms and then like give feedback as a part of a work assignment, and that's like a big deal to me. I was like,
cake and eat it too.
No HR involved for that, right?
HR is very weird at our office.
I just wanted to leave it like this for a moment so you guys can see when you guys receive the items, how they're packaged. Even though the item is inside of a satin privacy pouch, it still comes wrapped in plastic before you get to it. So this is how it looks once you pull it out the box. And I think that's important because when you're ordering this kind of stuff, you want to make sure that it's been handled well, but that we also make sure that it travels with you well. Okay, so this one is our captive desires.
And so one of the key product development philosophies at Bedroom Kandi is diversity and inclusion. And that means a lot of things. And I think a lot of people think culture and race, but we think about it from the perspective of body types and pleasure interests and price points, because being inclusive around the socioeconomic status of our customer, especially these days.
Right now, where everyone's thinking so much more also about where they're spending their money, which we should all be doing.
Yes.
But, you know, those of us who have a splurging problem have had to be a little more conscious these days.
So, yes, myself included.
Yeah, inflation has been getting us. So, yeah.
We knew that we wanted to make a collar with attached nipple clamps because it adds the element of fun that this also becomes kind of like a chain that can be pulled on and directed. But there are a lot of different designs that you can choose for nipple clamps, and safety, again, is always really important to us. So we decided that we wanted to get some adjustable clamps so that, again, different people have different size nipples. They can be non-existent to, you know, we wanted to make sure a finger size could fit through here so that everyone can enjoy these. But I will say, we put these through crazy testing. And there are some funny behind the scenes stories of near misses that we had to save you from. One of our founders is a male. And like I said, we want to make sure we try these things on everyone. And there was a Monday morning with Brian where there was a dozen different nipple clamp designs on my table. And he was like, and you just got to sit there.
Yeah, because Brian will take that shirt off.
And well, we almost took way more than his shirt off because there are some things that are not safe. There's one nipple clamp design that's like a circle that goes around the nipple, and then it has the things from the outside and they
pull in. Yeah.
They snap fast and hard. So he was eagerly doing it and then let it go. And it
kind of clamps.
Yeah. And it was, So just know that we put our bodies on the line to make sure
that yours doesn't have to be.
But again, we want to make sure that these are safe and these are comfortable experiences. And even if you're using them for an extended period, that, you know,
you're going to be comfortable. And so guys also know that when you adjust it, wherever you adjust the basically how much space is between the clamp, it stays there until you change it. So for example, it's closed in its position right now, but I'll press down on it just for a moment so you can see once they're open and apart. Let me clear my hand. And then once I screw it a little bit, you'll notice now it's permanently got this little gap. So this is what protects you. And then there's also these plastic knobs that's over the metal. So your skin is not coming into contact directly with the metal, although the pressure and strength of the metal is still applying against you. So that was something that was big for me, because to be honest, I think BK's nipple clamps were the first ones I used, because I didn't, for some of the reasons you said, I'm very sensitive there. And I didn't have this experience, but another friend did. And it was like a horror scene. And she felt like her feeling in the nipple was gone for a little while. It took a while for her. And I was like, I don't ever want to not feel these things. So I want you guys to notice I did detach it, right? Important, because now, I got on an all black. I can easily wear this out, right? As a choker. Oh, I got my Chun-Li thing going on today too. Hold on now. It's kind of giving a little bit of the Asian, like a geisha look. I like it. All right, now this like we have to take this to Halloween. So I'm thinking though, but guys, you could wear this and go out, right, as your collar, and then later on, just take those clamps, reattach, and then next thing you know, your going out collar has suddenly become your kinky collar, and you can, like she said, maneuver it, but then clamps to the nipples. Nipple stimulation is so big, and a lot of people don't realize that stimulating those nipples on a woman, for example, can absolutely render some stimulation to the nerves in the clitoris. And when it comes to men, I think one of our past guests, his episode was titled, I Got Nipples Too.
Yes. That's what we were saying. This isn't just for women.
Yes. So I love that this is something that can play on both. So I'll tell you guys, they're super soft on the inside. For anyone, it's almost like a velvety suede-like feeling. So if you are curious about trying out these things, I mean, we have the Captive Desires plant. We have our flogger, which is something that I like for like a sensation of stinging, but also just like running it slowly along the body. And you got the paddle over there by you.
It's the flogger has like really nice soft leather strips. So again, if you're somebody who likes sensation but not veering into pain, like I like a little bit of pain, but I don't want to be too and I also don't like to bruise too much all the time. Like there are some times where it's been worth it, but I don't like, I'm fair skin and complexion, and it shows up a lot. And then I don't want to do that, and then I go to a pool or a beach and my ass cheek screams and tells you everything that happened last night with me. So that's one of my favorite things about the paddle, because I always say, like as a switch, that sometimes I switch with the paddle, and that's going to determine what type of energy you get. So one side is like padded and it feels a little softer, but if you are like a pain little slut, right, then you can flip it over. And then on the other side is more like a kind of almost like leather-like feel to it. It's matching you, Rita. That's a good picture. Yeah. Someone get that. But yeah, so this side will absolutely feel a little bit more of a sting, while the other side feels more thuddy. And that's important. So you'll get to, as you guys are venturing into BDSM, there's plenty of terms to learn, but the impact tools, all these things that we are playing with, we have words that we use to kind of describe what it might feel like. And it's like a thud. So it doesn't hurt, but it's a nice firm pressure, almost like a hand. And I always tell people, if you're not sure if something like these things are for you, look at what you do in your vanilla day. And then let's look at how we can upgrade it. For example, if you already like your partner who's spanking you a lot, right? Then that's an indication you might be open or interested or feel something good from a paddle, for example. If you like soft feelings running past your skin, the tassels of a flogger can mimic that. Or if you're someone who's like, oh, when they lick my neck, I jump like this, then maybe our feather tickler could be an indication of where to start. So think about what you already like. And then that's when you can kind of figure out, well, where do I go next? So I always say for this, if you like to be choked, then you might like the feeling of a collar on your neck more presently. And if you like nipple stem, obviously a persistent one could be. So that's like my scale that I usually use with a person when I'm working with them to figure out, where do you want to start, right?
ask yourself those questions, and there goes your answers.
Well, you know, I've even advised in a way that's kind of like the opposite of this, but a problem solving thing. This mask has been a problem solving tool for some of my long-term couples. I had one couple saying, you know, life is so busy. We've been together forever, you know, so we're already trying to get, yeah. She could not get into the mental space because the pile of laundry, over there. I haven't done the thing. I forgot the bills right there. And I was like, how about we try a little sensory deprivation? Because what you are seeing is cueing you to stress and not allowing you to let everything go and just enjoy being with your partner. So things like this
could be a great, and the same thing I always say, every sense will be your almost GPS to pleasure, right? Because similar to that, you can do the same if you're overstimulated by sounds or things like that. There are ways to enhance the sound. There are ways to, you know, so I have a friend of mine who doesn't have to be spanked, but just hearing that, like if you're watching right now and that's kind of getting to you and you're like, hold on now, what's happening at the business of pleasure? And it's getting faster and faster. And you're like, you had to remember where you were for a moment. You might just like a little bit of impact play, right? So
slip into subspace unintentionally.
I tell people that all, you know, and we have so many great, you guys have seen some of the things here, but there are so many things that we have that play on sensory. We have lots of things for arousal. We have lots of things for sensitizing some things. And we also have things to add the fun element. So it's really about exploring. And if you're looking for a great way to start there, and then I would say, listen, if you're watching this episode and you head over to Bedroom Kandi, you might find there are some special things happening that might get you a little bit of sensory with a discount. Okay. So really quick, before we go to our last piece, which really isn't going to occupy much. One thing that I did want to mention, because we talked a lot about the things that are happening during, we're talking about a lot about exploration, but one of the things that I know is important to you guys, which is super big for me, which I have to give a shout out to my sweetheart because he's so good at this.
He's a good one.
He's a great one for that. Thanks. He is an aftercare specialist. Okay. In fact, there are ways that he's aftercared me that I didn't know were required, because I used to just say my aftercare is food, which it still is. Let's be clear. But usually after some of the things he does to me, then I'm like, oh, where's the quesadilla? Right? Because I don't know how to describe the hormonal release that you get, that oxytocin release that you get, just makes you feel warm, cuddly. And what else makes you feel warm and cuddly but comfort food? So I always I'm very big on physical touch. It's my first love language, and aftercare. So Eric, maybe if you can talk really quick about what types of things do you like to do after you guys have the fun to help transition yourself, and then also to help Rita transition from something that might have been a very intense either day or kinky scene. Right?
Yeah, it's I would say it kind of takes the shape of a couple of different things. You know, for us, our big thing, obviously, being, you know, in that dollification kind of focus area, you know, and also as content creators, you know, we'll often just be, you know, laying together and we'll look through the material that we created together. Like, it's not her, it's not me, it's we. You know, being able to basically go back and just really internalize and process, like, what did we just create, and, you know, the beauty associated with it. And then it really helps register the intensity of those experiences. And that in and of itself, I think it does bring this greater sense of connectedness and appreciation, you know, because we're not into the pain elements, like, you know, like Rita, you know, spoke to. You know, impact play is really not our bag. You know, it's, you know, kind of maybe like a light, you know, spank, but it's, you know, I cherish and protect my doll. I don't want to damage my favorite toy.
Yeah.
You know, so, you know, for me, it's almost like, let's look back at the catalog of just what unfolded, and it's just this, you know, moment of awe and inspiration of just like, that was just absolutely beautiful. And
to see the way he sees me is just,
yeah. And again, just being able to, you know, I think, you know, sometimes you're like, oh, I didn't really feel, you know, comfortable in that pose, or I didn't think it would look all that great. And then, you know, seeing it represented and, you know, in a real life image, it just, the aftercare, I think, is both of us just how, you know, again, to the point of expectation, how much further we exceeded the expectation in a great way, you know, being able to say like, this defies what I was setting out to achieve, or what we were setting out to achieve. And that in and of itself is just, it creates almost like this weird aftercare emotional bubble. And then it's just,
you get to appreciate it, right? Like instantly.
It is, you know, it's, I don't know how else to speak about it other than it's just this.
I think your rosy cheeks is telling everything we need
the color
to know.
The color of the coat.
He's getting warm thinking about. I love that. Oh my God, that is the best. So I what I love about that is reflection, right? Togetherness,
yes, huge.
Get an opportunity to appreciate not just what had happened in the moment, but like reliving it from a different lens. Yeah. That is just everything. I always tell people that a long time ago, I kind of like hung up watching much porn because I started to realize I actually enjoyed seing me again.
We were talking about this. I was like, in an era
hands down, would rather see her in our
now you
our
see
stuff.
why we get along.
Yeah.
I was like, in an era of porn addiction, my husband just wants to see me, and I just want to see us, and how that feels, and how this is going to feel 30 years from now when
you look back.
Yeah.
You're like, gosh,
being able to create like your own coffee table book of just like, wow, look at this catalog of just gorgeousness, and just like, you know, this chapter of our lives that we were able to create together just out of nothing, you know. And it's just, there's so many layers and dimensions to it. It's just, there's not enough words to encapsulate it.
And the content he's talking about too is, for those of you who don't know me, lingerie is my expertise and specialty. It's one of the product categories I was able to revive at Bedroom Kandi. And the lingerie thing is really special to me, especially thinking over time, because I've always had this interest, but you know, in my 20s, I had no money. Lingerie is expensive. It's expensive. And kind of like buying toys, like, it's a trial and error thing. You're going to buy something and be like, oh, that actually doesn't fit my body, or that looks great, or I didn't know that I like this style. And this is one of the things that was really important about the products we brought to Bedroom Kandi, is that we chose body stockings and like a tube dress, things that fit a really wide range of bodies, because they're really stretchy and they fit no matter what your proportions are.
It will conform.
And affordability. We wanted to make sure that it doesn't break the bank, that you can explore and decide, do I want to see a body stocking? Do I feel better in a dress? Like, what is it that works for my body that helps me feel like my sexiest
self? And am I going to feel bad when it gets ripped off if I have to buy it again? Was that just me?
That's one of the perks.
I've definitely had a body stocking or two of ours that I had to replace, but because of the price point, it doesn't feel. And I mean, if you honestly want to get a great discount on it, just join us. Yeah. Because you can use your consultant discount.
Up to 55% off.
Yes.
You can't beat that.
Can't beat that, to get, you know, your own joy and pleasures with that discount. But I like what you said, Rita, and that body, that inclusivity is so big. And I was here when we had our first lingerie collection, and it wasn't true to size. No. Well, at least, you know, US
this
sizes.
was before me.
Yes, yes. And
they were beautiful.
Yes, and I love.
Beautiful.
I guess what I think it is that I love the effort and the attempt to make sure that it was something that's a part of it. But like anything, I always say that anything that doesn't need constant change or evolving is dead, right? And so you try something, you realize, okay, this was a good attempt, but it's not hitting all the check boxes. And then, you know, bringing back the body stockings and not bringing them back, bringing them in. It was exactly that. And you guys will get to see a quick clip that you'll see with the stockings and the body stockings, so like on different bodies and different sizes. But I have to be so grateful for that, because that's a huge challenge for me. I'm not a small girl, I'm a full figure girl. And I would get things that it's like, maybe it'll fit my nipple in there, maybe not, or maybe I'm gonna have some spillage. And those are the things that any woman who can relate to this, you know what I mean? You can't stop looking at that one thing that doesn't fit right. Even if it looks right here, it's like, I hate the way it's making my boob squeeze out the side. And then it becomes so distracting that you're now looking at your partner looking at you, and you're like, I hope they're not paying attention to that. So people have to realize that you have to feel good.
You do.
In these things. So yeah, I love that.
And again, I have this special place in my heart for lingerie because, one of the things you just asked is about transition in either the transition to aftercare after a scene, but you also mentioned or coming home from work and switching. Yes. And this one is, something that until I experienced it with you, that I didn't realize how vital this was for me in that, again, my interest in lingerie, but after you buy it, it was like, oh, but some of this stuff, how do you even get dressed by yourself? I'm going to be sweating by the time I put this on. And it felt so frustrating. And one of the rituals that we have is that he helps me get dressed, whether it is.
He dresses his doll.
He does dress his doll. And whether it's before play or if it's just this is hard to put on. And the right. So that's how we start the scene is okay, we're getting ready. This place. Let me help you put on your shoes. Let me help you put on your clothes. And that moment, and I hold him for balance or whatever, and watching him intentionally look at me, that instantly, it really doesn't matter what happened that day. All of a sudden, I'm so immersed in what's going on between us and what's about to occur that I just can't tell people enough about the joys of lingerie that I don't think anybody knows.
Yeah. And it's more than just dressing you. I mean, there's kind of the preamble or the lead up to it where it's to some degree giving you a bit of choice and control to the point of having that true power position, but laying out the choices of, option 1, option 2, option 3. So to kind of already build that, that environment or that mindset of, I, again, to the point of the milk episode, forgetting milk, I'm thinking of you in this capacity, but also just the appreciation of just how gorgeous you are. And, for me, just being able to dress my doll, so to speak, it's probably one of the most intimate ways that, anyone, man, woman, non-binary, otherwise can really, I think appreciate a level of femininity that, for me as a straight man, I can't engage in, I'm not dressing up in lingerie, but to be able to, I hate saying it, take the wild fantasies of your teenage years of, you have the Victoria's Secret catalog.
Oh, you got the catalog model and the catalog model is yours.
Yeah, exactly. So it's you get to bring this to life and just be this is just the most jaw-dropping, show-stopping image ever brought to life. And there's just something incomparable about that, to see that personified in real time and providing the care of that.
I love that. Guys, I'm getting the tingly things. I feel like I gotta go hug my man. But I will say this. First of all, I really appreciate you guys' openness and transparency in the conversation. Because we like to create safe spaces. That's what it's all about. And that's what really Bedroom Kandi is all about as a whole. We have to give so much credit to our consultants nationwide, literally, who are going out and creating these spaces for folks, whether it's in their private homes or in a bar or wherever it is. They are literally creating places for people, couples, alike, or maybe you're dating, I don't know, whatever it is, to come in and get a chance to have a very hands-on experience. And even if it's virtual, right? Because we're in a world where sometimes things are done online, you still get the opportunity of a person who's going to take their time to explain these things. I found my biggest challenge in venturing into this, which is one of the things that made me want to have my first party years ago, was one, I didn't like the glaring, you're going to go buy a sex toy lights on most of the shops. That was the one, I was in politics at that time. So it was a real big thing. But the other side of it was most of the people in the stores are really just mostly cashiers, or, they might know a thing or two about what's in inventory, but they don't understand how to talk about the products with you from a space of education to a degree. So I felt like it was a lot of unguided spending and a lot of products and toys and things that ended up in a drawer that never got touched again until it was time to make waves with it. I wouldn't throw them away right away because I had a hard time thinking I'm about to throw $80 in the trash. But I would look at it and just have this super buyer's remorse. So I would say to anyone, if anything you guys heard in today's conversation really sparked your curiosity and you want to go deeper than just having one experience, our consultants learn a lot. We have so many experts, and including those who are in the Bedroom Kandi corporate office, but we are constantly introducing individuals to help better the knowledge in these areas. So I find that a lot of people don't realize how much self-development and growth you can have. So you can explore your own journey in pleasure and in kink and in BDSM, while as you learn, you're creating opportunities to share and pay it forward, which is what you guys said in the beginning. You almost feel selfish not to. So I hope that this was a really informational conversation for you all. Thank you, Rita. And thank you,
Thank you
Eric,
for having us.
for coming and sharing a bit of you guys' warm vibes. And we will see you guys again soon. Before you go, stay tuned because we do want to make sure you see a little bit of that lingerie. So take a peek at that. But make sure you come back next Money Making Monday and tune into the Business of Pleasure podcast. Bye. Thanks, Kasha.